Today's lesson is on how do we solve system by substitution. Use substitution to solve the following system of equations. Y equals 1/4 x minus 2, 8y minus 2x equals negative 16. Take a second to copy down the question. So, the solution to a system of equations, we need an answer for x and we need an answer for y. Substitution, I'm going to use for this method. So I'm going to substitute one of the variables into one of my equations. If I notice, I have y and 1/4 x minus 2. They are the same thing. In my second equation, I also have a y here. So I can substitute this whole expression into y. So I could have 8. When I substitute in, I'm going to use parentheses. 1/4 x minus 2 minus 2x equals negative 16. Now, I have one equation with one variable, which is x. So I'm going to solve this. So I can distribute 8 times 1/4 x gives me 2x minus 16 minus 2x equals negative 16. Now, when I continue to solve this, 2x and minus 2x, those cancel out. So I have negative 16 equals negative 16. Since negative 16 is equal to negative 16, my answer would be all real numbers. If my answer ended up being negative 16 equals 14, and they were not equal, this would be no solution. But since negative 16 equals negative 16, my answer is all real numbers. Use substitution to solve the system of equations. Y plus 1/2 x equals 3, and 4y plus 2x equals negative 6. Take a second to copy down the question. So I'm using the same method. I'm using substitution. When I'm using substitution, I need to have one of the variables be by itself. It is easier for me to get one of the variables by itself in my top equation. I have y plus 1/2 x equals 3. I can subtract 1/2 x from both sides. And I have y equals negative 1/2 x plus 3. Now, I can do the same method as before. I have y, I have negative 1/2 x plus 3, and then I have another y in this equation. I can substitute in my y, which is negative 1/2 x plus 3 plus 2x equals negative 6. I can distribute, and I have negative 2x plus 12 plus 2x equals negative 6. Negative 2x and positive 2x cancel out, so I have 12 equals negative 6. Since these are not equal to each other, there is no solution that would make this system of equations true. And the last question. Brandon took a 50-question exam worth a total of 160 points. There were X 2-point questions and Y 5-point questions. How many of each type of question were on the test? Take a second to copy down the question. Now, since I'm looking for how many of each type of question on the test, there are two unknowns, the Y 5-point questions and the X 2-point questions. The total questions would be X plus Y, and that is equal to 50 because there are 50 questions on the test. Since it's X 2-point questions, I have 2X plus 5Y is worth a total of 160 points. Now to get one of the variables by itself, I can subtract y, and I have x equals 50 minus y. Now I can just substitute in 2 parentheses 50 minus y plus 5y equals 160. I can distribute the 2. 100 minus 2y plus 5y equals 160. 100 plus 3y equals 160. I can subtract 100 from both sides. 3y equals 60. Divide by 3, and I get that y equals 20. Now I need to solve for both variables, so I can use either equation. I'm going to use the top one because it's easier. So x plus 20 equals 50. Subtract 20, and I get that x equals 30. So this is my answer. X equals 30, and y equals 20.